All right, let's first, I guess, talk about the inspiration for the film. How was it? What was the genesis for the films, and how did it start?
Sure. Andy was inspired by a true story. It was kind of my attempt to articulate like a moment in a child's life that really kind of changes the way you think about the world. And so for me, Andy kind of starts off as this boy who doesn't really know about the rules of society and of kind of like gender and how it's kind of forced upon him by his father.
Boys and Girls came very indirectly out of working on the No on A campaign while I lived here, which I'm sure we all remember was a really scary time. And after such a crushing loss, I wanted to do something about it, and I felt that going back to grad school and learning to make films about it was the best way that I could do it. And I started off writing these really political scripts, and this was cute and funny, but still at a point, and so that's where it came from.
I think I fell in love with the story of Viewer Discretion Advised, which I'll let Emmanuel expand on what inspired him, because of what's happening right now. In fact, we only have to look a few miles away to the Navy yards here and see when the ships come in with the recent repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. For the very first time, sailors can get off that ship and embrace and kiss and hug the person they love, regardless of the gender. So it's a very exciting time. Of course, there are those people that want to repeal the repeal and reinstate Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or do worse. So that's why we're hoping to get this film out to as many people as possible. Emmanuel?
There were a lot of different things that inspired the story for Viewer Discretion Advised, but one of the biggest things that inspired it was this news segment that I was watching. It was one of those news segments that you see where, you know, service members come back from overseas, they're at their base, and, you know, they're greeted by, you know, their spouses and their parents and their kids and, you know, their loved ones. And I just couldn't help but think, you know, if one of those service members was gay, you know, would they even allow themselves to embrace their spouse in public? Or, you know, what do you do? Do you drive somewhere where no one can see you and then wait until then to embrace? Because I think putting people in that position is despicable, particularly if they're people that served our country.
I think the genesis for the idea came with, I guess, an idea that ultimately all advice is somewhat useless, because I was going through a period in life where people were like, oh, just be yourself, and, you know, that'll work out. But then I think I thought, well, if you take that piece of advice but put it sort of in an extreme context, it can become kind of hideous, because the idea is, well, just be yourself. But what happens if you're a monster? And I've always wanted to do like film noir, so I thought it'd be a good way to sort of use the conventions of film noir to sort of highlight that, because I think what I like about film noir is that it sort of like subverts the moral conditioning we've got in movies. Like there's a good guy, there's a bad guy, you root for the good guy, and it sort of returns us to a place where we realize there's basically a spectrum of human morality and not these hard categories that we sort of are comfortable with. And I think leaving us in that sort of uncomfortable places is very interesting to me.
So I'm a playwright by trade, and I wrote an anti-bullying play that toured the San Francisco Bay Area for 3 years. So bullying has been on my mind a lot for quite a while now. So that is kind of what was the sort of jumping off point for the screenplay for Lunchtime. And also it got me to think about how important mentors are in the LGBT community. So I wanted to kind of mix that up a little.
What did you tell the children, and how did you kind of work with the children in terms of the topic, the subject matter?
You know, we let the parents deal with the kid. and we actually talked to Chris's father and mother about sort of his level of comprehension of the script. And I don't think he really got sort of the gay undertones of it, but, you know, why does he need to right now? So, you know.
Charles, you actually.
Let's see. You know, it's same thing. I sort of let the parents deal with that issue. So the children, they never actually, you know, even to this day, know exactly what the sort of end of the story is. But the parents, they signed off on it because they just want their kids to be able to, you know, act and just sort of have that experience.
So, what did you tell the child who was theoretically smacked by the teacher? Like, this teacher's gonna hit you now, or I mean.
Oh, I mean, he loved it. So he's like really excited for that day, and I think, like, surprisingly enough, like all the kids were amazing. I think I lucked out with the kids, and I think that attitude, it's just a good fit for the role.
All right. Can you pass it to Andrew all the way down here?
I mean, what's interesting with my film is that it's not like overtly gay. It's kind of gay because it's, you know, screening in a Queers on the Verge screening because I'm gay. But you know, the screenplay, you know, we went through with Ryan the whole thing, and he understood. What I thought was really fascinating about the process was that when we did the scene where we had to put the lipstick on him, we had done that scene, you know, a number of times during rehearsals and during the auditions, and we always mimed the lipstick. We never actually put it on. But then when we did it in public, in the mall, like with the lipstick, he kind of freaked out, and he said, like, this is what girls do, and which I thought was interesting because that was the whole thing I was working with, was like, oh, like I didn't think like kids that age would have that much of awareness. But he did, which I thought was really fascinating. And he actually started crying, and I kind of freaked out. And what we ended up doing was, well, his mom bought him an Orange Julius, and he like sucked it.
Orange Julius will.
He's a big kid. He's a big kid. So he like drank the Orange Julius. He felt better, and then my co-producer had him put the lipstick on me. And so I directed half the film with like lipstick on, and it became kind of like, oh, it's more like a clown than a woman, and he felt better.
My next question is for Chris. I guess the first question is, who does take longer to get ready for dates, gays or lesbians, in your scientific research?
I'd say the gays.
Okay. And I mean, I know it was meant to be a surprise at the end. It would be in a kind of a straight screening, but I mean, when he went south with the shaver, I mean, that was kind of a giveaway, right? What you decided to go silent with the piece. There was no dialogue. What was kind of the purpose, and what were you trying to maybe accomplish with that, or what were you trying?
One of the big mistakes beginning filmmakers make is doing everything through expository dialogue, which really drags you down. And film, I believe, is a really visual medium, and you're supposed to show, not tell. So that's what I was trying to do. Also, I'm terrible at writing dialogue. So if you're a writer, you want to make a great film, come talk to me afterwards. And I knew it was within my grasp to do. I didn't want to kind of set out to do something that was like way beyond my abilities. And so, you know, I'd been through like 5 different drafts of other ideas, and this one kind of clicked. So.
Drew, as far as viewer discretion advised, what was the, I mean, why the twist? You could have had a pretty straightforward narrative on the topic, and we were talking about before, but why kind of go with that twist?
One of the reasons, and maybe Emmanuel will expand on why he chose to write it in that fashion, but one of the things that drew me to this story is that we are, like, as we peel back the layers of the onion on these characters, we're finding things that we might not necessarily like, and so we're making judgments. And what I like about that is at the end we come to the realization that we had our own prejudice, we had our own bias when we were making these judgments, and you know, for a lot of us, we're on the other side of that most of the time, so I like the ability to flip it around like that. But maybe Emmanuel might have a few words.
No, I don't. I don't know. Like, when I first conceived of the story, it wasn't always my intention to sort of have that red herring in there, but you know, I do most of my writing in the shower anyway. And just one night when I was in the shower, I was like, they could be talking about anything, you know. And so I decided to write the dialogue in a certain way to keep it ambiguous. And when Drew was adapting my play into the movie that we see here today, I was just really happy that that sort of element in there was preserved very well. I think Drew did a wonderful job, and I'm grateful to him.
César, from an actor's point of view, was that kind of did you have to take two different frame of minds, or was it
Yeah,
kind of?
the interesting thing was that there was a very different focus from doing it on stage to doing it on film. But it's great to be in the audience and hear the laughter, because people think they know what's going to happen, and then to like hear the silence.
We heard that here. That was my next question. What has been the reactions? Because, you know, as the movie, there was a lot of laughter, there was a lot of, oh yeah, and then it was like dead silent.
There's
Is that
silence,
kind of the general reaction you've
and
been
then when
getting?
the credits go up, you see the people's backs of their heads like that.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? I know you do. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you all. It was great. I really enjoyed myself. This question is for Mr. Kim. Your narrative is extremely dense. You pack a lot into that story. And all I kept thinking when I was watching it was this could be a full-length feature film. Was there more that you actually cut out from the story? Did you at any time think to yourself, wow, maybe I'm trying to tell too much in this short period of time?
Yeah, I think so. I think what you see here is like, originally it was supposed to be more backstory about the motivation for like his motivation to be a serial killer. But then in the desire to sort of create something and just do it for the first time, yeah, you kind of get that story compression. And if I just go back and do it again, I probably would maybe make it a little bit longer, fill that out a little bit more. But just a matter of timing and budget.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
On the movie, Your Discretion Advised, do you think you could, had you ever thought of a different ending instead of having the ambiguity end with the movie, the video about Vietnam, or the Middle Eastern Iraqi soldier who was killed? Have it about the Barbara Streisand and having him get up and dance I was expecting something like that.
Well, like I said, the red herring that you see in the movie was not always originally a part of how I had conceived the story. I had always conceived it as being about someone who was not allowed to mourn the death of a loved one that they had overseas. But what I was sort of playing around with was I hadn't necessarily planned it on being about two gay men either. I was sort of playing around with different possibilities. Is this a heterosexual couple? Is this an opposite sex couple where one of them is bisexual? Are they lesbians? And then finally, I just settled on making it about two gay men because that's the frame of reference that I'm the most familiar with.
I would quickly add that there are some people that are disappointed that César didn't go back to do his thing after his boyfriend left.
All right, anybody else? Any other questions? Go ahead.
So at the end of the movie Andy, it kind of was left with an ambiguous kind of note. So I was wondering, like, what was your interpretation, or what was your perspective of what the ending should have been?
Well, for me, the man in the bathroom, who's played by my dad. I felt so bad. I was like, "Hey, Dad, want to play the creeper?" And he's like, "Sure." He was super awesome about it.
Cheap labor, though.
But you know, like to me, what was interesting when I showed my dad the script and talked to him about it, he felt that like this man had done nothing wrong. Like there was no boundary crossed. And for me, there was no boundary crossed. It was really just about this father's paranoia and what he assumes and what he's thinking, and the kind of gesture of like picking up his son and like bolting is just kind of it's what my father would do. It's just like you don't know how to digest the moment, and so you just run. And so that was, that to me felt like the most true ending to this kind of moment in this kid's life.
What just down the line real fast, what kind of surprised you the most about the process or the subject matter, or just kind of surprised you as you kind of developed the film? Oh, sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. This was my first short film, and really it was kind of how do you describe a moment, and how do you articulate something on film and communicate it to an audience. And so I'm always really intrigued and stressed out when it's screened, because I'm curious, you know, it's like, how well am I communicating something? And it's just kind of nice to like hear the laughter and hear the kind of awkward laughter. So yeah, but thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it.
Most surprising thing to me, I've always believed that less is more. And typically when you're to the stage of editing a film, the shorter you can make it and the more concise you can make it, the better it is. And this started out at 12 minutes, 12 excruciating minutes. And it got down to 4 minutes and 50 seconds, including the credits. And so discovering just how ruthless you have to be with cutting was really helpful to me.
We had about 16 people volunteer their time to make viewer discretion advised, and that part always amazes me. One of our shoot days, we only had 2 shoot days, but one of them was a 16-hour, 16-hour shoot with 150 takes. We had 50 setups, 150 takes, you know. So why do people do this? Well, in this case, it was because of the story. So that part always amazes me, just how much people are willing to give. And I definitely agree with the sentiments that this is a scary experience to watch it in a theater. So thank you for laughing and clapping. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is my first film, so that 16-hour day was a lot of fun. But I think what I was most moved by was just the crew, and just the experience of doing that and all those people around, just so passionate about it. So I'm moved by that. I'm also moved by all of you coming out to see this, and just for all the people who are involved in making the film and doing films and so forth. So it's just wonderful. Thanks.
I'm surprised at how long I could run on nothing but a can of Red Bull and a handful of grapes. Because that was me on the long shoot day. But I don't know, I guess I'd say I'm surprised with the reception that our short film has been getting. I mean, San Diego Asian Film Festival was interested in it, and the reactions that we've been getting from people. I really am humbled and grateful at everything that that has come our way, and my #1 goal is just to get as many people to see this as possible. So thank you for coming out.
Actually, I had a friend who I approached just to sort of get feedback on the script, and he actually responded with kind of like a disapproval. Because he's like, oh, why do you have to make the Christian the bad guy? And then like...
because they are.
But I think, yeah, just the responses from different people and sort of what I think they bring to the reading, and then how it expresses itself in their own critique or sort of understanding of the piece. Because people are always saying, oh, you're trying to prove something, you're trying to like say something. And honestly, no. You know, I just wanted to make something that's like a entertaining sort of narrative and filmmaking experiment. But I could see we're definitely, like, I definitely used, I think, the assumptions we have whenever we enter into that discussion as a way to, as I guess a form of misdirection. So people are assuming that, they assume something, and then the twist comes, and like, well, what does that really mean? So I think, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe just how people interpret it and what that means about their own perspective.
I am surprised that I need a drink right now, so thanks for coming.
All right, on that note, thank you so much. Give it up one more time for our filmmakers.